call the meeting to order. Start with the pledge. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Seek a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll move to approve the agenda as presented.
The motion to vote.
Second.
Second by Amanda. All in favor? 708. Now we just need a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Just remember, if you need to abstain from anything, now's the time to do so. If you have questions, now's the time to ask, pull it out, and get them answered.
So we're just adding
The highlighted one.
the highlighted ones.
And
Okay.
The highlighted one with the attached information. It's not Gibson, to be clear.
It's attached. Oh, I missed it. Oh, there's so much more. I forget to scroll to.
So do we have any other questions or anything?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So we got a motion by Amanda,
Second.
seconded by Bo. All in favor? 7-0, Amy. Moving on, CSIP, strategic planning, bright futures.
Just a quick update. We had CJ Huff here, and Amanda was here. We had some community members here, a lot of our faculty and staff, some administration. He presented on October 28th, and I thought really had a lot of good feedback from people talking about that framework. Amanda, I don't know if you want to share anything, feel free to jump in there. Just as a reminder, the basic framework of that is to meet all students' basic needs within 24 hours with community resources. Then there's a mentorship and encouragement piece that brings the community in to do that in a lot of ways, but one of the ways has been having lunch buddies or volunteers or regularly touching base with kids that need that encouragement. Ms. Pettigrew, just some progress on that, and Ms. Moon are actively seeking out volunteers and approaching them personally to have lunch buddies. Oh yeah, there's some people sitting here might be on that list. And just trying to get a good core started. I'm really proud of what Ms. Pettigrew has done over on the elementary side with bringing in our local businesses. I think it was the start of getting this whole mentorship, community seeing our schools, seeing our kids, seeing our needs, seeing how they want to encourage kids. When she started High Five Fridays, which is awesome, because I did not think of that. Ms. Pettigrew thought of that. So big kudos. We had last week, we had the Montauk County law enforcement in there, the sheriff was there. So I think the kids are getting used to seeing people, and we want a good core of volunteers to start, and that mentorship piece to start, because I think it starts with encouragement. It starts with kids seeing good examples of adults in our community, and our community having a foothold to where they can have that space to do that. The third part of that would be the future. Where's the future for our kids in our community or the surrounding area? So the future of those apprenticeships, getting those business connections, and had a really good conversation with the leader at Martin Metal, and they're looking at adding in apprenticeships. That we've always thought about Tipton, but we just hadn't approached you guys. We approached for sales, and you know what? You guys are on our radar. I'm so glad you reached out. So really good conversation. They had a representative here, and I'm proud to say that as of this afternoon, we've entered into another apprenticeship agreement with, wait for it, CMU. CMU is going to offer a teaching apprenticeship for one of our former graduates. When did Paige Whitman graduate?
2023.
2023. So she's always a party. We hired her a meeting or two ago, started working as a para. They will give her, I couldn't believe this, 24 credit hours, including the student teaching part of it. All we had to do was collaborate and have a memorandum of understanding with them. So we basically created a teaching internship just by working with the local university. I'm not going to take a lot of credit for that. A lot of those of our universities like CMU and UCM and others are kind of experimenting right now with how they're going to help us fill the gap and have certified teachers. So it's a really good piece that you just kind of hear about little pieces of it. The universities, I don't want to say they're slow to reach out, but they move. But when they move, they usually come up with something pretty good. So it's been a good pickup. So 24 credit hours she'll earn right here. She'll have a mentor assigned to her, and she'll meet some specific requirements and move her closer to being a fully certified teacher that much faster. So really a nice piece. Was one of our graduates from 2023. So that's the Bright Futures part, and it continues to progress. And let me see here. Had something else there. Nope, that's it. So we continue to have some good progress, and those are just some highlights so far. And we're looking toward the spring, and we've been looking at someone in the community that could act as a coordinator for us and to kind of help us meet some of these goals. And we won't announce that yet. We'll talk about that later as we kind of move toward that. There's actually some networking and training that goes on in Arkansas, where this has taken off a lot faster. CJ Huff has been involved down there. Now he's starting to look back at Missouri. So I really think that we're going to be in a good position to almost probably be a model for a lot of small schools that want to do this kind of thing, that need the framework to get started and the network to get started. So, other questions? Might even bring some grant opportunities as well. He's closely affiliated with the Walton Foundation, and I think I've said that before. So the more we kind of move that way. We're also incorporating, I forgot that part, Latham and Clarksburg. We want to bring them into our group as well, so it'll be Bright Futures Montauk County to incorporate them as well. Nothing to add on that.
Questions?
Oh, let's see. Oh, that's it.
Nope. You might as well put on into
Yep,
school funds.
just go to school finance productions. I gave the board a teacher's salary analysis. The good news is in 23-24, where that data comes from MSTA, that salary analysis will show us right in the hunt with like-sized schools. You can kind of see some rankings. I pulled it out so it's the central Missouri region. If I had gone a little further, I might have pulled out South Central too, because that includes a lot of our, the rest of our conference schools. I don't have all of the conference information, and it's really difficult to try to find current 24-25. But we can look back. You can see right there, there's 87 schools in mid-Missouri. You can see the regions up there. If you look at the Missouri part of it, that's the Greene County region where it's shaded in. And I put out of those 87 schools where we rank, and you gotta remember, those are some really large schools in there. But out of 87, the lowest for ranking is the salary maximum, which would be 37th. But you gotta remember, there's a lot of schools in there that are not our size at all, or have our means. So I broke it down a little further and took it to similar sized districts within about 100 of our current enrollment. Another piece I could have put in there, but that takes a lot of time digging through DESE, and I just didn't have time to get to it yet. Eventually I will, because I think it's good to look at that too, which is assess valuation, the wealth of the district, and what they have to draw on. So those are current enrollment of like-sized districts. Tipton last year sitting at 571. The highest one we have there is 685 in Henry County. And you can see just some benchmark points of where the bachelor's minimum was. Now obviously there was a 38K grant that was going on at that time, so that kind of skews the data a little bit. And then you see the bachelor's maximum, what we're paying, and you see the master's minimum, and then what the salary schedule allows for the maximum the teacher can pay. So you can see all those numbers. I put us in red so you can find this, not necessarily because we're at the bottom. Then from that chart, I ranked us right below that. You can see those similar sized schools ranked. So bachelor's degree minimum, there were 6 schools taking the 38K grant, it appears. So we were tied for first out of those 10 schools. And then you see the average there on the side. The bachelor's degree maximum, we were 3rd. This is last year data. And that was after we had made a move to deficit spend to keep our teachers on par with other schools our size. And then you have the master's degree minimum. We were 3rd again, The high was at Lone Jack, we were at 41,170, we were at 40,000. And then the salary schedule maximum, so we're kind of not quite in the middle, but we're fourth. Johnson County, I'm gonna have to look at their assessed valuation. The high they're paying is 69,000 for a teacher right there. We're at 58, the average was 58,203, so we're right about the average. And you got our average rank out of 10, it's 2.75. I mean, last year, when we made that move on that salary schedule, we put ourselves in the hunt with similar sized schools. But then we look, if you keep scrolling down, you look at your top competitors for teachers. So these mid to large size districts, you can take a look at what their enrollment is and where we rank. Not too bad on the bachelor's minimum, bachelor's maximum. We're talking about comparing ourselves to competitors for our teachers, Jefferson City, California, ironically Stover, but they're dealing with almost double our assessed valuation. That's what makes that a little skewed. They've got about 816 students, we got 571. Versailles at 1,200 kids, Sedalia, 4,800, over 4,800, Element 1,900. Those are all districts that very commonly our teachers will be here a while, and then because it's nearby, they will look to those schools to see what are the opportunities there for me. So you can look and see what the salary maximum is where we rank the worst. We're seventh. You know, you had a high at Jefferson City, high at Sedalia, they're paying their teachers 82 last year. Jefferson City is 76. Those last 3 years of a teacher's salary matter the most because that 3 consecutive highest years figure into their retirement. So that is another reason why you will see some teachers, and about half of our teachers do not live in the area. They may actually live nearer to Jefferson City than to us. So they have those opportunities out there, and they are very, very close by. So that makes it hard. But the good news is even though we're down in enrollment of 571 with about $60 million in assessed valuation, we're still tied for fourth by taking that 38K grant. We're still fourth when we do the bachelor's maximum with those schools. So those beginning teachers are seeing a comparable salary, and then the master's maximum, we're at 40,000. We were actually third. So we're not terrible. We're actually beating some of these schools in 23, 24. Where it would be the toughest would be to look at that salary maximum. If I was to look at their salary schedules, I would probably say that they see bigger jumps as teachers get further down the road. So also, we want to take a look at just what our salary mandate is next year. The minimum salary would be $40,000 next year. That's mandated. Now, it's already come up at the state level in one of the meetings I sat in at Massa last week. He said, well, what if we just don't do it? Anybody know what happens if we just don't do it?
Probably lose funding.
Exactly right. We'll go back to 1990s level funding, which I went all the way back to early 2000s where I could see what we were getting from the state at that time. I'm estimating about $500,000 we lose in state funding. It probably would be more. So you have to meet the mandate or you will be penalized. So there we go. That's what it has to be next year. We have to start at 40,000, and then FY26, we'll have to meet the benchmark at Masters plus 10 at 46, FY27 is 47, FY28 is 48. Then for FY29 and beyond, there will be an inflationary adjustment according to the current law. That's going to make it more and more difficult. And there was the answer to my question right there. So, another question I think that comes up, we're usually talking about it in January, February, so I wanted to front load it here because we've got some things to talk about later on tonight, is in recruiting and retaining teachers, the question is, and it's come up every year, should we go to a 4-day week? So I gave you what MSTA provided. They're always good to provide this for us. There are about 165, well, there are not about, but it is 165 schools last year were on a 4-day week. 168, sorry. That number continues to go up since 2018, 19, and it's just steady. So probably the biggest draw for going to a 4-day week, it's one of the questions I'm certain everyone who is interviewed sitting at this table, they'll ask, are we a 4-day week? When they interview people. That's the first question that comes out, are you guys a 4-day week? They want to know, teachers who are applying. We can show them a very comparable schedule to a 4-day week. About half, last time I checked, about half of our weeks are less than 5 days, because we have a lot of good breaks put in there. We have PD time put in there as well. But more and more schools are using this as a recruiting method to say we're 4-day week. Now that does require that we end up doing snow makeup days. There is a little bit of research starting to nudge and say it may have an impact on math scores. Nothing definitive, but that data is starting to come out through some of the educational think tanks. They're saying, well, we don't know if this is what's best for kids. DESE, on the other side of the extreme, is talking about they don't like 4-day weeks. They don't like how this trend is going. So two of the things, well, actually one thing that they've done is they're starting to press or try to put a carrot out there first and say that schools, if they attend 169 days, you have to make up all your days to get to 169. Currently we're at 161. We don't make up our snow days because we have the required hours in, but they have you attend 169 days, and based on some money that you get in June, they do a percentage of that. It's 1% of the state funding you get in June. You have to find it after digging through several different lines in the payments that they give you from the state. You can do the math, and it comes up to about $20,000 roughly that you could end up getting at the end of a school year if you go 169 days. So that's for FY25 and FY26. In FY27, they're going to raise it to 2%, so it would effectively double. So if you go 169 days, you could end up with another $40,000 as funds are available, because it's always, you know, if funds are available type thing. So it's a bonus to say, hey, if you go to school more, we'll pay you a little more, and it is a little. So, but I want you to see all the sides of that as you're kind of looking at this, and as we're looking at going into a new salary schedule, which I'm going to be writing, because that minimum is going to have to be at $40,000, starting with 25, 26, and 46,000 for a master's plus 10 years. So I had some numbers here. So what's that going to cost? Well, right now we're about $200,000 deficit spending. Next year, just initial calculations looks like we will be deficit spending again if everything stays the same, but everything will not, because there will be some things that we choose not to do or choose to do, and that would be on the facilities end, just maintenance type things. Will we see an increase to health insurance? Probably so. We haven't seen it in the last couple of years. If I was going to guess, it's going to be somewhere, and I'm not going to guess after a few weeks here, because I'm going to that meeting to find out what they're going to do. If we just guess 10%, we might be talking $50,000 in addition. If we did a step increase, that's just one step, but some of your teachers will tell you, they're going to go out and get their master's degree done. That may be a couple, 2 or 3 steps for them. So just conservatively, we might be talking about another $35,000. So that's $85,000 we would add, and we're already deficit spending by 200 grand. That's just with current numbers. So you could be talking about $285,000, but it really won't be clear until we hit and start doing our budget again, looking at who we've hired, who stayed, who's gone, how many people are moving up. But those are just conservative estimates that I can give you right now. Here's what a levy increase would do. 50 cents on your levy would add about $300,000, okay, to what you bring in locally. I told you we're about $200,000 deficit spending right now. That's not next year's budget, but I've already started on next year's budget, just looking at needs and what will be in there. We just go with 200 grand as our number, and then I just gave you $85,000. Say it gets to 100, could very easily, you're talking about $300,000. So that's an estimate, guys. So 50 cents on your levy to pay teachers, to pay personnel, will add that 300 grand that you need. Now, here's another thing. Is it all on the community? Not necessarily. We may have some attrition opportunities. There may be, now that we've gone to 7-period day, we can start looking at those harder. You know, some people are not coming back. I've already talked to the principals at the high school and junior high and said, are there some personnel that may not be coming back, and could we still teach school and meet all our requirements without them? So we're gonna look at every position like that. So maybe a position or two at the most that go down. State funding. Right now, they're supposed to be paying state adequacy target $67.60 per kid. I think the first payment came in $66.50. The last payment we just received was $6,600. So yeah, see what I mean? Kelly knows what that means. I mean, we're talking about thousands and thousands of dollars. The answer when I called Desi about that, well, if everything comes in okay, we'll make it up at the end. Well, we won't know till the end, that's June, okay?
Checks in the mail.
What's that? Checks in the mail type thing, right? So I'm already seeing they're being conservative because they're seeing the economy is a little soft. They're seeing about 3% down, 3% down in state sales tax and in the economy. But our election just happened. So what effect does that have on us? Everybody just put your finger up and wet it and put it in the wind. And let's just see what happens, which way the wind is blowing here. Some good, some bad. How does it affect Missouri?
You're the only one following directions.
There you go. You don't know. But
Our
I'm telling
he's
you.
over adding up how much he's gonna make.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, I'm giving you your best estimate of where we'll end up. State funding, they're really supposed to pay us over $7,000 starting next year per kid. We were at $67.60, which they haven't quite gotten to yet. But next year, I'm hearing like $7,100 or so. That's what it's supposed to be by statute. But Kelly may remember this because he's been around long enough, is that at one time, the state adequacy target, what the state would pay, they used to give you a percentage of it. They would say 0.94, 0.97, 0.87. You know, we were not quite full funding, you know, and this is what you get after a year has gone by and why we keep trying to keep a fund balance. Okay, if we don't keep a fund balance, we can't shore ourselves up against that when those ebbs and flows happen. You know, when we had the pandemic, I got information immediately within a few weeks of us shutting down and all that stuff. Hey, look at all your contracts, make sure you know what's going in and going out. You may be about, Dr. Rob, you may be at, I had to do some figures, you'd be about $125,000 short. You know, so if that had held, we would have never seen that money. You know, so that's kind of the way that works, guys. There's an ebb and flow that's really tied to the economy in all this stuff. So state funding may increase, it may be short. We'll find out how the economy goes, right? But we'll know, but it won't be till June. So in the meantime, there's an opportunity if you want to place a levy on the ballot. 50 cents might do it. You could say up to 50 cents and we could go that direction. And when we get to the setting the tax levy, we'll know what the state has promised or will or won't do. We'll know where we've ended up. We can say, hey, it only needs to be a quarter. We'll just put a quarter on it, or just put 20 cents, and I'll give you the numbers to kind of show you. And you can do what you're comfortable with. That's kind of what we did last time, because at that time, you guys asked me, what would it take to balance the budget? At that time, it was $1, because we really didn't know it was going to go to $67.60 until it finally got through the General Assembly, and we knew in June. And that it was the end of June, probably before we really knew it really was going to happen. So the problem is the timeline. You know, you're trying to forecast what's going to happen economically. You're trying to forecast, you know, what's finally going to come down the pipe, and then you get into these months and September, October, November, and you're starting to look at, well, what is DESI really paying us? You know, sometimes it's not the full amount that they promised because they're looking at the economy too, saying we don't want to write a bad check. So, what questions can I answer for you? I tried to think of all of them that I could think of on that front.
I think I know the answer to this, but the analysis on the salary, that was based on salary schedules, not actual salaries, correct?
That is what they offer on their salary schedules, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
So how many teachers, I mean, we increased last year to 38 base, correct?
We did.
And so we brought a lot of people to 38, so we're gonna be, what's our steps? 400?
500.
500.
Yep.
So we're still gonna be 3 years behind the ball to get to 40, or for teachers to be getting to 40.
It has to move to 40. You're gonna see a
No,
new salary
correct.
schedule. Yeah,
Correct.
yeah. We're at 33.5 for base.
So it puts us 3 years behind, going ahead and bumping it to 40,000. So deficit spending 200,000 for at least 3 years.
Yeah.
To
We're digging
regain
in,
that.
we're digging into our fund balance. What's happening? Yeah.
You might, well, how many teachers do we have that are over that?
Or over what?
The 40,
Over the 40 right now?
yeah. It'd have to be teachers with at least 10 years' experience probably,
Yeah.
that's been
I
here.
don't have the schedule.
I'd say you're like right
It's
at
on the
half.
back of that. It's on the back
Probably
of that
half of
right
them.
there.
I would say you're half, or at the minimum, the other half, or somewhere.
Yeah.
Your building, yeah.
I
your
did an
building may be-
analysis like that a year or two ago to kind
Yeah,
of see
yeah.
how many are on both sides of it, but
Just trying to
I
think how
have to
many
get
actually.
the new salary schedule. We have reduced the number of columns. We have slowed down, like, there's no really advance for bachelor's plus 8, bachelor's plus 15, or that kind of stuff. But it is significant when you get your master's degree, and the steps.
Don't you think that's the state pushing too? They want more teachers to get the masters. I mean,
Well, I think we should reward expertise. I
No,
think
absolutely. I
we should do it.
don't
I
disagree.
don't know if they've really pushed that. No, they really haven't pushed that, but the recommendation from the WASBO.
well, I think it'd be a push
Was
that
to
the,
reduce your columns.
that the state's trying to get universities to jump on board because that's more money in the university pocket for kids to get their masters. So if we're gonna require them to pay that, it's going to influence how many people go on to get their masters. They did the same thing to us in the 90s. They, wanted you to get your masters and it was,
Well, our universities are in business too.
well, I get that.
They're
But
they're gonna
they're
do it.
in
You're
close
right.
conjunction with the state and it's,
Yeah.
they're not giving the state any money, so.
I'm not saying to go, I just wanted to touch on, you said the 4-day week.
Yep.
What's the incentive? I mean, now that we've set a scout salary, the state has set it at 40,000. Where's the savings in a 4-day week when they're set at a salary of 40,000? So it's not in staff.
Right. It
The
might
lights
be
are
in
still on.
transportation. The lights. are
Non-certified.
Yeah.
Non-certified, so
That'd
we're
be,
cutting
that'd
out
be a hit.
paras and,
You could.
OPA.
no, I'm saying
Yeah.
that's where it's coming is paras and OPA and transportation.
Districts have found when they go to 40.
You work the same amount
They
of
don't
days.
save a lot.
He worked the same amount of hours.
Same amount of hours.
Yeah.
They say not days on here, Desi used to focus really hard on hours versus days. So you had a little more
You still go
leeway.
to school the same, it just changes your.
Now, Steve, did you have a 4-day week where you were at?
The way we set it up is we did 410s for our non-certified, so they wouldn't lose. We saved a little less than 2% with transportation, because I never count on transportation because they don't pay you anyway. We fund our own, of course, you guys use contracted services, but your goal is to save 3%. We saved about 2% because
Yeah,
we didn't cut hours. I wasn't gonna take food off the
That
table.
would have gotten their pocket.
But it really adds up in the savings. Like, he knows how I feel. I'm definitely, it's the best thing's ever happened to education if you're trying to recruit teachers. But your attendance goes up, so you draw more funds off your attendance, because your attendance will go up between 5% and 3%. Because you can have your staff, your kids can make appointments on the Mondays you don't have school.
Did you use any non-certified on that Monday to help, maybe for childcare?
And that's the biggest
No,
football you'll hear, but you now have every kid in school can provide daycare. So there's plenty of daycare. That
Because
was
I
the
had for
first
sales
one.
too, and that was big for about 3 or 4 weeks, and after that, it kind of,
Every school.
Parents adjusted to it.
Says the same thing.
But that was the big push when you couldn't raise your salaries, is what can you offer your staff? And I personally took away 2 personal days because they're basically going what I thought 1/5 less, so I took back personal days because I didn't need them. So we actually went from 12 to 8, nobody complained. And we did our PD one time a month.
staff like that.
Our staff love that. Families love that. If they want to work, they can work extra, but you found out they spend more time together. We just made a rule that is for athletics and extracurricular activities, you couldn't show back up to school till the regular time. That way the parents had that weekend.
Stay on
they knew,
same
so
schedule.
you didn't call for 7 o'clock practice on Monday morning, you did the regular time, so just that way.
I'm gonna start a fight. Could you expect less from them, Amanda? No. Thank you. Okay, we went in the 10 block to the 7 block. One of the factors was the kids are seeing the same class more frequently. Whereas if we go to the 4-day work week or the 4-day school week, that's an extra day in there that they're away from that. How you think that, I mean, is that a concern?
It's the same amount of time that you have in classes. It's the same amount of hours. So you haven't changed the number of hours, you're just doing it.
You're stretching.
How long were your blocks, Steve, when you did that?
We were on 8-hour day, I'm gonna say there were 50-some minutes. It added, we shortened up the time between classes and gained, I think, 9 minutes. Instead of doing 4 between, we did 3 between. I think we added, I wanna say 26 minutes to the day.
So you're looking at
So
We started at
326 or something like
We
that.
started at 7:55. We had bus issues, so we brought some kids in earlier and got out at 3:30.
But you add weeks to your year, like you start maybe a week earlier.
Wherever that calendar falls, we'll start as early. We would have to start as early as possible by law, and I have to go back and look and read the law again to make sure what day that falls
Not
on.
before Missouri State Fair.
It's gotta be after the fair.
It's gotta be after the state fair.
One thing we know, what we have here is great, is we have the spring break, which is awesome. You're on 5 days, if we didn't have spring break. You had your Easter weekend. You had
More of like a
Martin King
4-day
Day.
weekend versus.
And Christmas was not 16 days, which some people love that. It was like 9 days, 10 days. 'Cause
That's
you
what
were-
it used to be. Until, like 2 years ago, we added the full week and a little bit longer Christmas.
So this is maybe a little bit of a financial incentive to potentially do this, but mostly a recruiting tool.
I think,
Is that fair?
in my opinion, the highest piece is the recruiting piece. That's the recruiting piece. How many, we've got Lynn,
It's
Harrisburg.
half, yeah.
About half of our conference is currently in a 4-day week. And I bring it up to you because this come up about every year. And we continue to see that trend, you see how it's going.
So it's good for
So-
adults. Explain to me how it's good for kids.
And that's the question, how is it good for kids? I don't think it's ever been clearly answered, other than they get more family time.
The worst problem is, I think we're in a farming community and you run that out into June or something, you know, I don't know how many weeks you're gonna have to add.
You don't,
You won't add.
you don't add any.
You add.
You have the same weeks you got
time.
now. You're adding time to your day.
Right,
Yeah.
right
You
now.
still have the same amount of weeks.
Right now,
Still
you
the
have,
same amount of
yeah, you
weeks.
have 10 built-in
And make
snow
it out
days
of
right
300
now.
rather than 3.
Those 10 built-in snow days go away, because you already have 10 extra days built into our schedule. With
Kids
snow
always
days.
had work.
I'm with David on
Wanted
this.
work.
So I'm with David on this. I think if the more kids in school seeing what their math, English, history, science, the better off we are. I mean, until our scores can prove us otherwise. That's just my personal opinion. I think how you keep teachers and retain teachers is I think we gotta pass an operating levy.
I think that would be the biggest plus. I mean,
Yeah,
offer,
that's my personal
offer
opinion.
the money and,
Well, you're gonna have to do that whether you're a 5-day week or a 4-day week. Be able to meet cost minimums.
Right.
I hate to see us
But I mean,
jump into this.
I just don't see, I mean, it's just my opinion, I don't see how a 4-day work week helps kids.
I think it's better than a 3-day one week and 2 the next. I mean, 10, when we had a 10 block was, you seen a teacher 2 days one week and 3 days the next.
Are the kids adjusting to the 7-block wall?
I mean, I think so, based off
I haven't heard any negative.
attendance and grades, I would say yes.
So. There's a few that are, no.
I personally haven't heard any negatives. I've even asked kids and they're like, oh yeah,
The ones that butt
Last
heads
time-
with those teachers are butting heads every day. instead of
That's
every
kids
other.
that don't like school.
yeah.
Their parents didn't have a good experience and kids aren't gonna have a good experience. We have to change that. That's our job. Make experiences good.
That's a straight A student though.
Correct.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not criticizing 7-block move. We've done it, I'm past it, it's
I was
fine.
just curious.
I'm just,
I didn't even get a damn fight started.
Well, I think like one thing that is very clear is, like, whenever we say 4-day versus 5-day, right now our schedule's 161. Last year we had how many snow days? 7?
7.
So how many days do we actually go?
154.
154. If we go to a 4-day, you're still gonna go 161 days, but you're gonna go all 161. You're not going less days. You're going the same amount.
You're making them up on those Mondays.
You're
you
just,
would've been off.
you're just having a consistent schedule. You don't have this Friday off this week, and then next week you have Thursday, Friday off
And they typically take Mondays, don't they?
Yeah, most schools do.
Because most of your holidays.
Latham is Monday.
Otterville's Monday,
It's a.
Funston's Monday.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, 155 have
What
Mondays
are,
off and
what are your all's thoughts on
13 are
it?
Fridays.
Are you for it or against it?
I don't have a personal feeling one way or another. Sometimes I worry about what kids do on those days off.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's the best place to be at school.
Sure.
But then you also, 5 days of kids who struggle with school is also a lot. And sometimes that enhances your behaviors because they're really tired by a Friday. So I think there's pros and cons both ways. I'm not this way or that way. I think there's probably some benefits each way.
I think that just listening to everyone, that's where I've been at. I mean, there seems to be pros and cons on both of it.
Yeah.
I don't know what the best way to analyze that to try to make a decision what would be best for us, or what the next steps would would look like. But I would be interested in hearing, like from Steve, about how they went about in his old district, you know, making that transition. Like, did you guys do, like, what led up to that, you know, from a research
The
perspective?
big issue was they couldn't get teachers in,
Yeah.
couldn't keep, couldn't retain them.
Yeah.
You know, it started off in Parkman. Lathrop was the first one to do it. They did it the same positions. Their whole goal was they had a $10 million budget. I remember the lady Spiel, Dr. Robinson, I talked about it. They're gonna save 10 positions, and that's why they did it. But I don't see any negatives as a superintendent, but as a parent, I love the time with my kids. And I was in a department meeting, so the kids all worked on that day off. And we didn't see any correlation to grades.
I've talked to a few at Versailles, and they enjoy that Monday with their kid. And mental health is a major concern, and if we can better their mental health.
Our big thing was we did a food program. We want to make sure the kids got food because some kids don't eat unless they come to school. So we did the backpack program really extended, so those kids got extra food to take home with them on a Friday.
Are we doing that this year? That's kind of good. How many you got going?
About 13, and we pick them up once a month, and then Janelle's special education class puts them together and gets them out and sends them home.
So dumb question, what about families that don't have a teacher in their household? Both parents work a steady job. What are we throwing those families into by thinking on Monday? You know, if they gotta stay, they're gonna have to find childcare on Monday.
Do you think that would be easier to have a consistency of knowing Mondays are off rather than longer breaks where you have to plan or a snow day pops up, oh, now what are we gonna do? Well, you're gonna make that up now.
I understand, I'm just thinking of Tipton, you know, say, I'm gonna use my family for example. Elizabeth, we're not gonna say she works at school, you know, she works a regular job. Finding somewhere in Tipton when all of our kids are out on a Monday, you know, there's not that many daycares. I know there's gonna be some high school students that are gonna be willing, but it just seems like if we do something like that, we're gonna push an extra cost on parents for a Monday, every Monday to hire a babysitter for Monday.
I think that's a good question to see how other communities have responded because they've all dealt with that.
That's been a discussion point when we've talked about this before.
You know, there's only so many little Cardinals, which is full, you know.
And there's more and more parents working from home too, though.
That's true, but I'm just,
A lot more since
I hate to take a jump like that without, you know, and throw that extra pressure on a family.
Survey your community. You never know what they're thinking.
I think that's kind of where I was going as I was thinking through this, and, you know, when I was talking about analysis, and that would be part of it, you know.
You
trying
want to survey your
talk-
staff, survey your community, survey both, see where they're at. But it's kind of like what everybody do November 4th when we had these. You know,
Yeah.
but if you have a calendar and you know in advance, it's not like a snow day. Snow days are the worst.
So they know every
Set
first
calendar
Monday of the
every
month, they're gonna have to have that.
Every Monday. I mean, I'm not saying it's not a burden. It is, because I got 2 kids that have to stay at home whenever school's out, and my wife works from home, but my wife works from home. She doesn't get to play from home. So, like, we have to figure out childcare on all those days, or she has to take off those Mondays, and it's not ideal, but
Does anybody know if any of these schools do like I mean, I guess that's not really feasible because we'd be opening the doors still, but doing it
most
service.
of those communities usually have churches that start Monday programs that open up the doors for kids, and then usually within the first year, they all stop because no one comes.
I think Versailles started that, that's what.
Yeah, they did.
Counselor, and I think it
It
fizzled
wasn't
out
very
because
long,
no
like
one
3 or 4
wanted it, and
weeks,
by the end of it, they're like,
parents
we have to
decided
figure it out
it's easier
ourselves.
to-
Yeah, they started it at the
To work from
school
home.
and offered
staff extra money to come and work, and then, like they said, they did it for a little bit, and then nobody attended. So.
Corporations now have changed.
Warsaw and Skyline both did that too. They had churches, but after the first month or two, nobody showed up.
Started Daddy Daycare.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've heard from a lot of folks is even those that have tried to bring people back into an office are trying to do that more in a hybrid type format rather than a permanent, full-on in-person type situation. That's the way we are. We're 3 on, 2 off if we want to be.
Can I ask Scott something? What do y'all have anything like that in place for parents if there's a 4-day week that they?
It's not been an issue. We do allow people to work from home, but it's not a substitute for daycare.
Correct. I get that, but if it makes convenience for parent, I didn't know.
I think the main thing here, guys, and my recommendation of putting this question in your agenda tonight was you shouldn't make a decision quickly. And all of you represent the community. And we need to hear from the community. I think communities have gone to a 4-day week. They wanted it. They supported it. There's pretty much overwhelming support for it. I think Derek brought up a really good point. You know, what are we doing to those parents of the littles? That's something that comes up a lot. We're also not feeding on those days. You know, some kids do struggle getting regular meals. We're not seeing those kids. And unfortunately, we have some kids that have some higher needs and have some things that walk in the building that we uncover. I hate to, go too much in depth on that, but sometimes there's some kids that need our help. So it is less service, less days of service, same number of hours, but less days of service. And I think if the community wants a 4-day week, then my recommendation would be the board support that. If they don't want that 4-day week, then you need to listen to that too, because you represent them. But I've heard it a lot, so I wanted to make sure that I brought it to you. It comes up every year.
Can we put out an anonymous survey to the teachers themselves, teachers and administrators?
Sure.
I mean,
You can put it out to the community as well.
well, I can tell them at the coffee shop, but they don't listen very damn good.
I think you want to survey.
And you can also have an open forum about it, and some districts have done that too, where you invite people in, you want to hear.
Well, a teacher's gonna vote.
Yeah, I think
Teachers are gonna be 95%. It's not less days though, it's still 6 days.
They're still working the same amount of hours.
Yeah.
What is 11?
Number of hours.
And really, you're making them
11:50.
more, because you're gonna make up for snow days now.
Well, I'm just thinking
Maybe.
of being fair
Maybe
to
not.
teachers and
But then here's what we
administrators
did
also,
make
you
up.
know. Everybody's got an opinion, and
I think
I think we need to hear it.
I think it needs to go to parents, and if we're gonna survey anybody, we need to survey our parents
Versus community.
versus teachers.
Community is not gonna give
And
you
what
proper
teachers,
feedback.
but everybody live a 4-10 day.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have people who don't have kids and haven't had kids for years, and they're gonna be like, no, they shouldn't.
We
So you
gotta
want-
use the data we get.
You also though want to hear, I think, from parents who have young children who don't have kids in school yet.
Yes,
Yeah, I think part of
agree
that
with
survey, you'd want them to indicate like
Like
what
the
grade
preschool
level or
parents.
what age.
Gotcha.
Miss Pettigrew might have to have a world cafe. Maybe the only way to get them here, feed them, just like parent night. Feed them, get them come in.
And I think if you're gonna send a survey, that's pretty difficult to convey all the facts. Just a survey, you may just get answers because
Well, yeah.
that's what they think they know about something.
Yeah.
Some of it's gonna come, it's just like your free and reduced ones, it's gonna come back or it's not. So,
Just throwing ideas out there, I mean.
But you can also try to have an open forum and people don't show, which
Correct.
is frustrating too, so.
Well, when it comes to if they thought they had to have a day where they had to take off work or something, they're probably gonna show up.
Yeah,
But they also need to have the facts in front of them, besides just verbatim words that are thrown at them. It's nice to have that presentation. Steve, is that the kind of things that you all did when you were looking at that? Did you survey and
Send
have?
that survey out.
All right, moving on. Administrator reports. Everybody's got it in front of you. Does anybody have any questions?
Hey, just real quick, just so we can tie that one, can we move forward with that then?
I
Just
wrote it
put,
down.
yeah, put
Yep.
together a survey.
I'm all on it. Yep.
You're up. Does anybody have any questions for the administrators?
You sold all your spots for Friday night yet?
I wouldn't think so, no.
It's supposed to be cold Friday,
It's
isn't it?
supposed to be cold.
Yeah.
Not as cold as next Friday.
Yeah, I bet.
I would say the next Friday night
It'll
will
be
be,
full next
if
Friday.
we win.
I might be
maybe
this
win.
weather.
I'm saying
It's a
win,
bomb.
yeah.
Let people bring their fire pits, put up there.
They did that, did you see that?
I think that's already happened.
That's already.
A solo, it happened.
It's not
It
real
was,
fire.
no, it wasn't real fire, I mean, it was
It's not,
Electric.
a
it's not
small
wood.
one. It was a small one, yeah, a little small solo stove.
So that could be an insurance center.
Smart, I thought.
That is funny though, I mean,
I just had a question for Jason. On your high school DEF report, like I noticed in Ashley's report, she had mentioned you were gonna go back and re-hit what they were struggling with for these kids that
Yes.
just don't care about school or
I mean, yeah,
have a
some,
hard
but
time getting them.
some, but the ones that, are identified that need help and are getting, the standards retaught to them, whether it's in class, in WIN, or in the library. I would say probably on that list of your high school kids, I would say it's about half and half of kids. Of the 33 total kids, I would say it's about half that will actually show up either for AI after school or come in during WIN, and then there's probably the other half that also have attendance issues as well. They have attendance in the 80s, so those kids is a little bit different deal. Some kids struggle and need extra help. Some kids choose to struggle.
I mean, there is a lot of straight refusal when they're called in for AI or asked to, even during the school day, because if you can't get those kids to stay after school, there's the trying during the day. And there has been some flat refusal to even work for Miss Melton or a teacher during WIN. So, making up things, so.
I've got a silly question about football, if they keep going. The Mission does not have any sort of, grace is the only word I can think about, but we'll have basketball going too with people that can't practice. How do they deal with that? Or they just, you've got to have your, 14 practices or whatever? It carries over.
You're automatically
Yeah,
eligible.
unless they
I
didn't.
didn't know how that worked.
Yeah, they can play the state championship on Saturday, play the next.
Tipton tournament.
Okay, so they do have something to count for
Yeah.
that, because it could be.
That's been
It
done.
might be ugly, it might be ugly, but they can play the next day.
They'll be tackling kids on the.
Oh, they're gonna overlap, that's right.
Championship game is the same time as
Yeah.
the state game.
On the tournament bracket. That's the only thing that stinks about our tournament. I mean, it's nice having it early, but when football's doing good,
What really stinks is they stretch football all the way out till
December.
December 7th.
Cause it used to be done Thanksgiving
Thanksgiving.
weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are they still playing this year?
Yeah.
Last
It was
year.
a lot better when they were in St. Louis.
Yeah. A lot of states start earlier than we do because of this reason. It's the only sport that overlaps a month and a half.
Yeah.
But that was a question I had.
Nancy, a lot of the policies that we read deal with your kiddos, don't they?
Does anybody have anything for anybody?
What was the midnight to 4 practice?
Midnight. We had midnight to probably 2.
Yeah.
Midnight Madness. It's something that a lot of schools do to start seasons.
I just heard it out. I didn't know what it was. I was just curious.
Yeah, you see it on like college on TV a lot, like the first opening day they do it. And so this year was the year that we could actually do it because we had PD on that Monday. So then, in the years past, we haven't been able to because it's been October. And so this year we had that PD day on that Monday, so we were able to. Kids didn't have to wake up and go to school.
Gotcha.
I never wanted to do it and then have school the next day. Some schools still do it and they have school the next day, but I've never wanted to do it and have to get up and go to school, so.
We used to look forward to that at the zoo. They did the same thing, it was Midnight Madness. So
Yeah.
it's awesome.
Did it have, was it mandatory or just whoever could get there.
It's just your first practice of the year.
Well, California used to do that with their football, didn't they?
They do it with basketball too.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, or did, I don't know.
Tried my daughter to drive, but I'm saying,
Yeah, they did it with basketball too.
I'd rather do midnight.
I think you guys
Then
brought people in,
5 a.m.
had
practices.
breakfast for them and all that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah, we had some parents come in and cook.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have anything? So we have no old business. So moving into new business.
Our audit is generally available at this time, but I think the election, at least talking to Lisa and her talking with some of the auditors, has slowed down the communication from the county with our auditor. Everything's done. They're just waiting for the list of tax abatements that have been given to put that onto our audit. But there's a review. There's nothing there that's a major concern, and we'll have that in December. They'll have the full completed audit, and that's the last piece that they found. So there's no major concerns in our audit. Segregation of duties that everybody tends to get, even districts I've been in that are much larger. My last district gets segregation of duties, so just listing that. Other than that, we were gonna get it approved tonight, but we just don't have it all back from the counties to our auditor. Also, certification of our bond election results. We don't have those official results. We usually get that in writing. Amy and I are waiting patiently for that, but I did contact all the counties, and what is in the paper is correct. They just give us an official letters from 3 different counties, and you guys can see that when that comes up. Now we're at letter C.
Number C, discussion tax levy increase on the ballot in April to meet state salary mandate. What's the board's thoughts on that?
I think if we do a tax levy, we don't do the up to, we just set an amount and stick to it. It confuses way too many people.
I agree.
agreed. And if we use last year's numbers, like Dr. Rob explained earlier, if we're gonna get out of deficit spending and it takes 50 cents, that's what we take, you know, or if it takes 40 cents and we need 50 cents, we just do 50 cents and roll on and try to stay out of the red best we can, keep our heads above water instead of asking up to, because it's just too much gray area for.
Yeah, they just were too confused, or they just thought the dollar the whole time, even though it would have been, what, 30 cents or something, what you said? So, I mean,
last year, yeah.
but they just had a dollar in their head, and that's what they calculated their stuff to be
Yeah,
at.
I got
so-
lots of comments that said, oh, well, if you only need 30 cents, why did you put up to $1? Well,
Because we don't know what we need.
I
That's the
mean, at
answer.
that point in time, you don't know exactly the dollar amount, so you
I guess
kinda
some
leave
is
it
better
open
than
a
none,
little
though.
bit.
For what it's worth, I think it is confusing, and also I think I like the up to. But I'm in the more minority, but just because I do only want to take, I mean, I'm just I'm not a big tax guy, so I would only want to take what we would need, but I do understand the reason.
I don't see any way around it. I mean, we can't keep spending in the red, so
That's true.
it's gonna have to go
And
on
it
the
hasn't been
ballot.
done in, what, 20 years? So, I
Over
mean,
20 years.
It's over that.
and how much inflation has happened in that time? I mean, it has, like,
Same with girls volleyball, it's a year to change.
right.
What? I'm proud of them, they did awesome.
I agree.
I think we just gotta do what we can and get what we can and not, you know, go for what the community will allow us, but the up to is just too gray. I mean, we've seen it failed.
In your best guesstimation, Dr. Rob, of course, I mean, it has to be a guess because we don't know till after the election and everything, but
Informed hypothesis.
yeah,
I'm
there you go,
thinking it's
informed
about- I'm
hypothesis.
thinking it's at
We
least
won't call it a
50
guess.
cents. Yeah, I'm thinking it's at
That
least.
sounds
50
too
cents.
unofficial, but, I mean, in your informed, what the hell did you say?
Hypothesis.
hypothesis.
Yes.
Uh,
There might even be a theory, because there's some data to support it, right? The indicators that tell us it's about
We'll go with that.
Is that what Cole Camp did, Terry?
Yes, they did 50 cents, Eugene did 50 cents too.
And then Claire, they passed theirs?
They did, they both passed. I think we start there. We try to make the budget work. I show you where it ends up, because you know, you got all those variables. You've got healthcare, you've got who's moving up on the salary schedule, who's coming back, who's staying, how many people do we need to hire. A lot of variables out there. What's the state gonna pay? Let's shoot it right in the middle, see if we can't get it balanced out. That's my recommendation. If you want me to start working toward that and get the filing stuff going, I can do it.
When do we have to file by?
That's what I was just looking at. It's usually in December. And this one it says for candidates, but I'm gonna have to find the right one. I probably have to call Secretary of State's office just to make sure I'm right. It's usually in December or January. They kind of monkey their stuff around a little bit, so. I'll
I was
make
thinking
sure.
it was January last year, but.
Yeah, it was January last year, but I'm seeing, here they're showing me one in December, so I'm gonna make sure that's right. But
I mean, I know all of us in here understand it. How do we, it's like beating a dead horse, man. I mean, we're 1 for 6. And how do you get it through the community's head that you've got to have certified staff?
When you put out information, they don't read it. You have open forums, they don't show up.
Because if you don't have certified staff down there, you don't much really have anything, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, you're not only lose
And you have
certified
to
teachers,
retain
you're gonna
those
lose
people.
programs because you don't have the money to pay for them. I mean,
Right, I mean, like I said, I think all of us in this room understand it. It's just somehow, I mean, does anyone in this room have any ideas how to convey this to the public?
I think you had 22 votes short, right?
27, I think. If
27.
I'm not, it's around there, right?
It's in the 20s.
It was in the 20s.
I know I heard from at least 20-some people that the up to $1 was the holdback. I think that if you say 50 cents, I think you gain 27 votes.
To put this in perspective, we had what, 1,752-ish voters from this last election. We had 497 voters here in that election, and we had 222 yeses. We had 946-ish yeses for the facility. So when you look at the it's just an anomaly, presidential election with it's hard to get an indicator of where everyone's standing because there's a lot of probably low propensity voters out there that came out.
Yeah, that wouldn't have voted otherwise.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about 4-day work week or pay, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you go back to the 4-day work week, is that the incentive or is pay the incentive?
In fact, looking back to 2021, our 2021 vote, we had a total of 646 voters. 2023 bond, 546 voters. And then the April 2024 was 497. That gives you an idea against 1752.
I'll share that to your email if you guys want to see that. It's interesting. Just a second.
Where are you getting that from?
We had a table put together on that, just so I was trying to figure out like where we were and how far we were off historically, and trying to understand, what the community was really, where they were on this vote, this last one.
I'm like Jason on it. Everybody I heard that said they voted no on it was because it said up to $1. And
But I'm pretty sure we made it pretty clear. Yes, we said up to $1, but we made it very clear we were only gonna take what we needed. So how is that so hard to understand? What's so hard to understand about that?
The
I
gap,
think we
it's,
just live in a conservative community, so you also have to understand, we're making decisions for people's finances. So while this may be okay for me to pay 50 cents, the next person it may not be. I don't think we can bash people for not making that same choice as us. We just have to be very clear on exactly what we need, what we're doing, what are we doing with our finances, are we being fiscally responsible? And then saying, we only need this is exactly what we need to have a balanced budget. And I'm
I
all
agree.
about paying teachers, because I want really good teachers in my building teaching my children, but,
That's what we need.
right, absolutely. But I think there's just an understanding of, nobody likes taxes. So what exactly do we wanna pay? What exactly do we need to pay, and not a cent more?
Well, that's been my point to several of them, that, you know, when we had the forum in the weight room, you know, they said, well, y'all wanna try to pass another tax levy for teacher salaries. Yeah, it's coming, we have to, because we have no choice. We have to do what the state mandates of us, and I'm not saying, and I want it on the record, I'm not saying that there's not a teacher down there that's not worth way more than they're getting paid. But, you know, we've gotta try to balance our budget, so that's, you know, in order to do that, we've got to pass a tax levy to increase the teacher salary and to stay up with what the state's mandating. What a speech.
I think too, we've got to reach out to our other communities, Fortuna and Syracuse. If you look at the vote, a lot of naysays. And we've got to reach out there, communicate well with them too.
We always do better from a percentage perspective, obviously, here.
Correct.
That's true.
Like Cooper County passed it though, right? Like they were like,
Last time.
on the tax levy.
Last time,
Yeah.
yes.
Seems like you won't pass it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Most of this turns into voter turnout, really.
Yeah, it was like 12 to 10 in that county last spring. It's a pretty low number.
What are you trying to say?
It's probably all doubles too.
I was in there.
Oh.
and read
Hey,
it.
see?
That's
That's
so
the
between all of us.
Cooper County.
There's 9 left then.
So, what do you want? You guys wanna put something on there, you wanna make a motion?
We need a motion, or still discussing, thinking?
I mean,
It sounds,
go ahead.
well, I mean, it sounds like everyone's in favor of this. We all know that we've got to pass something, some sort of increase.
And I agree with that too. I don't know if we have to, if we don't have to let them know yet. We could always think some more on exactly how we wanna do it. And what's best.
Do what?
Hmm?
Do what? On how much?
Yeah.
I'm recommending you guys go with 50 cents and see if we can't pass it. That's my recommendation. And we'll try to get the budget as close to balance.
I'm not making a motion this time because my bond issue failed. Somebody else got it.
Is it the board's opinion that we shoot for 50% and then not up to 50%? Is that what I'm hearing?
50 cents.
50 cents.
50 cents.
50%, that's terrible. That would be really bad.
It is 50 cents, 50% of what you asked for last time, if it was.
Okay, that's really what I'm doing. I just messed up.
I think the up to is what throws us off. I think if
Put that on there.
we just say 50 cents, you know, if we only need 40 cents that year, I don't think nobody's gonna throw rocks at us
Right.
for having the extra 10 cents.
If you roll it back.
And you can roll it.
I mean, I agree with you, Bo. I only wanna use what we need, but I just think it's hard for them to understand.
No, I get it. If we put it as a 50 cent, do we have the choice to go lower than that?
Yes,
Okay,
because,
let's
because your
do 50
timeline,
cents.
remember, in April, you're putting it on the ballot. If it passes, well, then we're doing our preliminary budget in June, right? Figuring out what the state's gonna give us, and then we get to August, we get our assessed valuation back from all 3 counties, and then we sit here for the tax rate hearing and say, okay, I meet with the municipal advisor, we go through all our numbers, here's how much we need for our debt service, here's how much we need, we've got everybody hired by that point, we see most of our costs coming in, and then we set the levy. And I tell you, we need 42 cents, we can deal with 50, but we need the whole 50. Here's what happened with the state, and I can give you an update and tell you. But, and that's why it always said up to, but you should assume it's gonna be 50 cents though. You should assume.
Well, in 26, 27, 28, you still got increases to your masters, so
Yeah,
you're still gonna be drawing.
yeah. But I mean, that's gonna generate roughly $300,000. The numbers I gave you right now, we're 200,000 deficit spending, and add in the rest of it, it's another $100,000 just to operate the salary schedule and do all the rest of it, guys.
And then we're not getting a reeval, right, from Montauk County for assessment?
Is that an reassessment year, 2024? No, I don't think it is. Go back and look at that.
And what our commissioners decide to do, does anybody know?
Well, last discussion I heard, it continues to be on their ballot, that's Montauk County, to do the tax freeze. That's the other piece, good point, Kelly. That's the other piece coming in. Cooper County is freezing property tax for age 62 and above. They're just going for it. Yeah, Morgan will probably has done it too, I read. So Montauk will probably follow suit, very likely. Even if Daniel Williams and I both went up there to their meeting a month or two ago and just said, hey, look, you know, what's the cost of this to us as a school district? And I also talked to Cooper County as well. I said, why did you guys do this? What's the cost to schools? We don't really know what it is. And we had a real round-and-round conversation that I got a little terse about it because I was like, here, you guys are doing this without knowing the impact. You are getting a tax decrease for everyone, which I'm all for. If somebody's retired and on a fixed income and have that kind of need, that's fine with me. But why are we doing it on the backs of the school? Find another way to do it. Because you're hitting a service organization that affects basically 80% of the people in the county who have kids. 20% are falling into that category of 62 and above in Montauk County.
Is there a cap to it, like, you know?
No, it's just, you
So
don't have
every
to have a means
farmer
test.
in Cooper County.
There you go.
Well, it's,
You got it.
there's
It's
some-
their house though.
It's the house, it's not
their
the
house
farm.
where they live, right. So they could, yes, they could have a $500,000 house, $1 million house or whatever, and it's gonna stay the same for as long as they live from 62 till they die. There you go.
So it's just freezing, it's not, they're not gonna quit paying.
They're not gonna quit paying, but it's gonna
Okay,
be
so
frozen.
I
If you take-
misunderstood. I thought they
Yeah,
was-
you take 20 years ago. okay,
Correct, I get you there.
That tax rate, quite a bit less than what it is now.
Especially in Cooper County.
You know. So, there's nothing, I have nothing against, you know, people who are on a fixed income or gonna get put out of their house or something like that going on, but there's no means test for this at all. There's no means test, we're just gonna do it, everybody's 62 and older. And I'm closer to 62 than a lot of people in school right now, I'm 55, so, I mean, I would benefit from this, but I just can't see why, sorry, I got on a soapbox for a second, can't see why our legislatures did this. If they wanna give a tax cut for our seniors, I'm all for it. Okay, they've worked, they've done a lot in life, but you're doing it on the backs of school. Wrong move, in my mind. I'm conservative, but that's the wrong move. You're doing it to kids, you're doing it to teachers, you're doing it to us trying to make the budget work with an unknown cost to us as a school district, but it's gonna be, I guarantee it's gonna be in the thousands of dollars year after year after year, it's gonna keep going up. And it's gonna place more of the burden on the local taxpayers who are not reaping that benefit. That cost is gonna go back to the people who are paying their taxes and not in a freeze zone.
So when's the best, or the most likely time that you'll hear from the state about some assistance?
You're talking about just the SAT? It won't be till June. Probably May, June. We'll start getting some numbers. That's the way it's always been, Kelly. I mean, they're talking about around 7,100, they're talking about it. We really don't even know in this year if they'll follow through and the economy will support in Missouri, 6760. Well, so far.
How much are we losing if, right now? Just, you said we got 66 this year.
First payment, second payment was 6,000.
Yeah, you just take it on an average and say, how much are we losing if we're supposed to be getting 7,100, right?
Yeah.
760.
Maybe 60. Yeah.
But we don't count, well, high needs will be different too, because it's,
But they could make up the difference. The economy goes well, they make up the difference at the end and we're fine. Or make us whole at the end. But right now, they're holding a little bit back. That's what's going on, about $100 per
but they
kid.
gloat on how much money they have left over.
Oh, I know, they got a lot. They got a lot of projects too. Highway 70, the
Highway
stadium,
70
stadiums that want to
doesn't
get
have
built.
kids.
There's a lot of projects out there.
And we gotta do that one.
So, back to the tax levy.
Yep. It looks like it's January 28th that we go by.
So January 28th, we would have to make a decision if we want it on the ballot.
Yeah, but you can't do it on the 28th.
Well,
I gotta go through the legal process and get we gotta get the ballot language approved by you guys, and if we start now, it's a good time to start. The
Anybody
latest,
have any other questions?
so the latest, it'd have to be December that you guys decided. If you wanna table it for now and think it over, that's okay.
Might give Dave some time to politic downtown.
You got any money for free coffee? Come buy a vote.
PR, yes.
Yeah.
Public relations, yes.
Well, I'm gonna make a
Expense
motion.
account for you.
I'm gonna throw my hat out there again, and I think we need to put this on the ballot for a tax increase of 50 cents.
So we got a motion by Dave.
Second.
Seconded by Derek. All in favor? 7-0, Amy. All right, that's that one. All right, next is, a discussion about placing bond issue on the ballot for, this is my understanding, for the field house again. Is that what that, because it doesn't really say.
Amanda put that on.
I didn't say about putting it back on the line, I just wanted to discuss the thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a discussion, yeah.
Where were we at, 53%-ish, 52.7?
We got it right there,
51.7. 51.7.
51.8, yes.
Does it go up in April? Does it go higher?
No.
Not
It's the
go up in
same.
April, it's the same.
It's your last chance. For like a year and a half.
What?
I think it's your last chance until November of 26, until it goes back down. After that, it goes up to
From
2/3.
August of 2025, August of 2025 would be 2/3. November will be 2/3. So the rest of 2025 will be 2/3, so 66% basically. You're still at 4/7, so 57.14 in April.
Thoughts?
I'm in favor of running it. I'll come out and say it again, because I think that we have a lot of people in the community that want it, and I think that, like I said, it's hard to get an idea of where we really are, considering that was a presidential election. I'm in favor of running it. Plus, I think the cost that we've gotten so far, I mean, the further we kick this down the road, I mean, just, that stuff is obsolete. Whatever work's been done previously. To start
Well,
with.
not only that, but your Fisher money too, you run out of time on that.
If we already have something on the ballot, does that make any difference financially on putting an additional thing on the ballot? It'll just be,
Oh, you're talking about how much it costs to fill it out? I don't know, I'll have to find out.
and
It costs us
also,
about $7,000 to put something on the ballot.
and also, since we just had the language, and if nothing was changing other than the date and it being put, we don't have to go through all that again and pay for all that again.
But we'll have to pay to put it on the ballot again.
Right.
Yeah.
But before, we had to talk to the attorneys and get the
No, you
wording,
don't have to do that.
because we already have it.
Yeah, well, it'll have to come through the attorney again, yes. Just to make, well, you'll have to approve the ballot language again, so we gotta go through that process, but I don't think we'll have anything legal that we can do at that point if it's already come through the attorney. If it's exactly the same, I don't need to write by the attorney again. But you guys aren't changing anything about that ballot language.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, just assuming that.
And this is a school board election too, so we have to have an election regardless if we pass this levy to run that.
Any other thoughts?
I was impressed by 900 some yeses. I mean, yeah, we had a lot of no's, but
I think the no's
there's a
you're
lot of yeses.
gonna get are gonna always be no. I mean,
I think some of the no's are probably people voting in the presidential election that really don't have a lot of stake in the school. Some of them. I mean, well, some of those will not come out and vote in April, I don't think.
I didn't do it. You guys are my mics. Be nice to my mics.
Kelly, what's your opinion?
No,
You don't have an opinion?
well, I have opinions. Do we need to listen to our community about what kind of building we're gonna build besides just the foundation? Is there any other input from other people to see what kind of structure we need or what they would support, I should say? Not necessarily structure, but would they be more in support of what Eldon did versus this proposal?
I mean, I don't know. I thought they did a good job talking to all the coaches and tried to meet every
Was that a
sport or
concern that
activities
you
needed.
heard?
Money, yes.
I mean, the type of building though?
Not necessarily, they're the same building, just what you're gonna put inside of it. Basically the same building, size-wise.
You can just turn it off, Roxanne, it's so distracting.
It's distracting.
Talk louder.
Yeah, I'm worried that, I'll tell you for a fact, I voted yes for it, and I was excited for it, but I feel like our voters have talked. You know, I wonder if we run it again, if we're not trying to reach in the pockets of our constituents too far, asking for 50 cents and then throwing this back on the ballot, saying that we want to do it again just because they spoke. And I know we had a bigger turnout, but we had all of our constituents, for the most part, turn out. You know, they spoke, they said no. I know it was real close and I hate that it didn't pass, but I worry about, I'm gonna use Craig's term, kicking a dead horse by just throwing it back on again, saying that we want it. I'd love it to pass, but are we trying to reach in the pockets too deep? And this bond going on plus a levy increase, is it gonna take away our stance for the community of our support?
I get it, and I think that's part of the thing that I think there's a big misunderstanding as far as reaching into the pockets. We cannot cover capital expenses from our operating levy. So if these bonds go away, there is not money to cover capital expenses. So it can't go away necessarily unless something drastically changes within the community where we're bringing in a lot more money through our operating levy. I think that's a misunderstanding, because when we talk about it being a tax for, a no tax increase, at some point in time, yeah, it would go away, but then how are you going to do all the capital expenses that are deal with all your capital needs from that point forward? Become very, very difficult.
I guess my other question would be, I don't want to do all the talking since everybody's jumping at it, but I guess my second question would be, instead of going a full Hail Mary to go a complete building, turnkey, would the board think we'd be better off just trying to get the structure and then build from there? I know, I think it was Coach Duke said that, it's gonna cost more down the road, but we might have better support down the road to put in the turf, put in, the extra weight room. I'm just thinking out loud. I don't know what our community's thinking, but would just a building be worth trying?
I think it depends on if it's a building you can do anything with, then.
Correct.
That becomes the problem.
So it'll cost just several more dollars to piece it out like that.
And I think, and that was part of that conversation when we were in the actual structure and prioritize that, because I think originally, I can't even remember the dimensions, but it was quite a bit smaller with extra features, the mezzanine, for example, that we talked about. And we ended up saying we can do that down the road, but let's get the base structure correct. which I think is still the
And
right.
I think they wanted to make it as
Big as possible.
big as
Yeah.
possible as they could put money to do other things with down the road if they had to.
Yeah,
I mean, I was thinking just, you know, if we had a building, maybe with the gym floor, and then we might not have turf in it, but we could always add turf down the road, or we could,
But then I think you're gonna lose some of your voters because it's only gonna be towards basketball and volleyball.
that's true, I mean,
You know
you
what I
could put
mean, like-
wrestling mats in there, TRA can
Yeah.
practice in there, not trying to sway you.
No,
But just,
I'm not saying you're
no,
wrong.
I'm just thinking outside,
Yeah.
trying to.
I'm
think
not sure
outside
you
the
lose a
box.
lot of votes over turf, I think.
I mean,
If we need space, we need space.
I mean, I'm not saying I'm a professional football player by no means, but if it's nasty outside, you can wear tennis shoes on concrete and slow practice through drills and at least get something out of the day. You know, archery could still practice, wrestling could still practice, you know, baseball could still, I mean, yeah, it's not turf, but it might be something,
And they don't have turf now.
yeah. I mean, at least it would open up.
what was the cost of that turf, do you guys remember? I don't, I just, there was, it was a few $100,000, right?
Yeah.
So do you think we get more, is that what pushes it over the line if we ask for 3.8 million rather than 4 million? I mean, that's
Not
the
personally.
kind of thing, you know.
And at some point in time, you're gonna have to go back and ask for more money to complete that, I would think. And then they're going, I can hear some of them going now, here you just got 3.8 million, now you want $250,000 or whatever it costs to put in the turf, and you know, how come you can't be happy with what you got? And, I mean, I still like, go for broke,
I just
get
don't.
it all and be done.
Yeah, and I mean, I appreciate the whole conversation. I just don't think that, I don't think that what we asked for was really elaborate, I guess I should say. I think everything that was in that bid or what we were looking to try to do was needed and would be useful. So, like, I can't think of anything that we would just strike a high dollar amount, but that we'd say, okay, well, we can do that later down the road. Because I thought we got to that point after we struck some of that stuff with the mezzanine area and the bathrooms and things of that
The
nature.
batting cages and that stuff was gonna be donated down the road or something, you know, so, yeah.
You'd have to cut HVAC, like it.
Yeah.
And then you go back to the old, like David talked about, was do it right the first time.
HVAC's the big one. That's the one I would think of.
Cause that was the big ticket item on there, was
Well,
HVAC.
electrical was $500,000 too,
Yeah.
HVAC, both of them were $500,000.
Yeah, I kind of agree with, I don't know that we want both of them on the ballot at the same time. But if we can get the tax levy for teacher salaries, I think from the comments that I've received, I think there's gonna be several. They'll say, well, now you're finally paying the teachers more, you know, and maybe that'll sway a few of them to cross over and vote for the bond, then it's.
And I do definitely think the teacher salary is the most important one
Yeah.
that we should be worried about. It just stinks that the percentage goes higher next election. And you're about out of time with your Fisher money. So, I mean, you just have to.
I need bribe money to buy votes.
We asked for 4 million, right? That was it.
Yep, that was my,
Well, we asked for 4 and it was a 4.3, basing that we had the Fisher money.
Yeah.
So that looked odd to people that were voting, because if it's 4.2, whatever the bid was or proposal was, but we're only asking for 4 million. You know, we use that, we know there's gonna be overages by a certain percentage, I would say 10%. So then you've got 400,000 that you gotta come out of pocket somewhere, and we're deficit spending already.
Well, I think the Cardinal Foundation was raising money too, though, to cover all that, right?
I think they had pledged to match the Fisher
The fishermen.
Foundation.
the only thing
They
worried
did
me
at the
about
beginning,
that
but we
is,
didn't hear much about it
Well, I
throughout.
think they had a tier system set up to go out once, I mean, they weren't gonna ask people for money until. it
People
was-
didn't wanna commit.
Correct, just you put it in there, you can't take it back out.
Yeah, so,
Does it make a difference if the Cardinal Foundation, say they raised $1 million, said they don't have it in the bank, but they've got people who wanna make a donation toward the project, and all of a sudden the project becomes $3 million that we need to come up with. But what Kelly's right, I mean, you heard some talk about people who are gonna do that, but does it make a bigger statement to say, hey, you know what, a quarter of this project's gonna be covered by local donations, but the school has to put in this much, it's $3 million, and the rest, the $1 million is coming from the Cardinal Foundation. You know, they're ready to donate it, but they can't turn it, they're not gonna turn it over until we get this passed. I kind of thought the Fisher money would push that a little bit too, but it hasn't.
How much did you, not to change subject, but when you did HVAC and you did lease purchase on that, how much was that? I mean, how much did we lease purchase? Was
We
it,
lease purchased $600,000 worth.
and what was the payment on that?
It's like $120,000 a year.
Just thinking way outside the box.
When you're throwing out that $1 million, is that just, I mean, is that just
Hypothetical.
Yeah,
That's just an
hypothetical.
example.
Okay.
nobody
It's
came
like,
to you and
it's
said.
like, you know, it seems like the community I've heard says, well, if they want that, people can donate and pay for it. Well, maybe they do donate a certain amount and pay for it. I've talked to one person that wanted to buy the whole basketball court and was ready as soon as we passed it. But maybe we.
But I heard from other people too that said, I plan to make a large donation once I know
Yeah.
it's passed.
And large
So-
donation doesn't have an actual figure
Yeah,
to it.
I mean, I don't know what
So,
their
so I
large
think
is.
that communication piece does help it, to
Yeah.
hear that, hey, the community's got some skin in this. I don't know if it passes it, I'll be honest, that's just a thought I had. But it seems like that's a piece that could have been shored up that might have helped. To say, hey, you know, these 20 people are gonna contribute $1.2 million to this project. The district is only on the hook for this much. And this is this big of a facility. Can we all vote for it now? You know, I don't know. I don't know if that works with anybody.
That's why I asked about lease purchase, and
Yeah, oh yeah, we can.
not trying to focus, but I'm saying if we could lease purchase, let's just say $1 million, enough to get structure.
I wouldn't recommend that till we pay off, and I got a few years left on that, and it'll be done. But remember, you're taking from operating, and you're transferring that over to Fund 4 facilities to make that payment, so you're
Correct.
pulling from it.
Correct. I understand that.
Yeah, you know.
But the point I'm trying to make is if we did a lease purchase and the foundation comes through with whatever donations they can get, and if you can get a floor, it's gonna be pieced together, but at least you're gonna get some space. Versus, you know, it doesn't take a vote to lease purchase.
No, just a load of the support.
Correct. And so then yes, you gotta juggle some money for a while. I mean, like Dr. Rob said, you gotta pay off the other one for the.
And that would put you in a position where you're juggling money out of your operations, which pays teachers, which gets transferred over to Fund 2. I don't recommend you do that. I don't recommend you pick up another lease purchase because it's not hitting, when you pass the bond, it's debt service. We already have that levy going. All we need to do is give it a project to pay. That's it.
See, I don't think we.
But lease purchase, if you're making a payment, aren't we having to make a payment on bond? The same way, if we pass a bond, don't we still have to make payment?
You already have $1.08 of your levy
Okay.
that goes directly, it's like an automatic deposit into paying that bond every year. So it's already withdrawn, we never even see it in our bank account.
No, I get that.
Yeah, so that money's already there, that levy's already been set, it's $1.08. But sooner or later, everybody knows this, we start paying that off to the point where we won't have to collect $1.08. It's just gonna diminish over time. 2041, could be as early as 2036, depending on how assessed valuation goes and how much money's coming in. So that's important to know too. If you don't have a project, you don't need a bond levy.
But you don't really want to let your levy ever run out.
Correct, because then you have to go back to the voters if it goes down to zero again. And you have to go back and start from ground zero and say, it's what Smithton's going through right now. They have a zero. And they're asking for 50 cents to make some improvements for safety, their driveway, all kinds of things, and they've already voted it down. They're kind of going through the same thing we're going through. they can't get it on the levy, because they can't get a bond levy, they've never had one. Once we don't have one, looking at the way our people are voting right now, what's the likelihood they're gonna put a new levy on? Probably pretty unlikely. So we need to give them the projects that help kids, that help our facilities, that fix our roofs, that fix our security, that fix our HVAC. And this is a want, but it's also a need. If you look at how many activities we offer and how many we're managing, Bo can tell you what practice times are like.
It's crazy.
It's crazy, right?
I'm happy to have the time that we have, and like, I think at this point, we're good with where we're at, but I mean, for TR, you know, some of these other affiliate, I mean.
We have 11 basketball teams that, I know 5 of them aren't even, they're going to Clarksburg and Latham to use their facilities.
I was in the school last night from 5:30 to 7, and every single space in the school was being used, including the hallways. Kids were lined up waiting for their turn to be able to move into the next area as soon as one thing, and it was crazy to see how, I mean, there's as many kids in the school at night as there is during the day.
And that includes the cafeteria.
It was the cafeteria, both gyms, and there were kids on and off the stage because they were using it as like a dressing room or something in between, or moving stuff, and it's full.
And just from a school day perspective, I had a situation with a kid this week in my office, upset, not a typical response from the student that I was dealing with over something, in tears, and after calling home, figuring out kind of what went on, the kid had been at school since 5:30 that morning at basketball practice, a junior high kid. So, I mean, the days for our kids are long, and then we're expecting them, whether it be morning time or evening time, and then we're expecting them to function throughout a school day too, and hold it together and be able to handle things when things go wrong throughout the day. I mean, that was just one small thing that happened that I noticed this week, that, you know, maybe his day wouldn't have been like that if he wouldn't have been up since 5:30 in the morning. I don't know. I clearly support it. I support it because it's for kids, and I think we talk about, you know, we should listen to our voters. I really think that also on the other side of that, the Cardinal Foundation's worked really, really hard and stuck their necks out there. So maybe we should support them too for going to bat for our kids, going to bat for our community.
And not only that, but I mean, our community did elect us, you know, so they should, you know.
So all the people that voted no, it may be a kick to them. It's also a kick to the people that are very supportive of our school, that stick up for our kids every single day and want what's best for them. And you've got archery there till 9:00 p.m. You've got coaches not going home. Those are very good educators in our district. And I just feel like we're going to end up losing some of those people over practice times, not getting home to their families. So I don't know. I mean, obviously you listen to them when they vote, but it's just my feelings.
I am gonna make a motion to do this here in a second, but probably regardless of any more discussion that takes place, that way we're at least all on the record of it. So, but if there's any way, if we do need to talk about it anymore, we probably should.
Amanda, do you have what's your opinion?
I mean, I'm obviously for it. So I think we just go all in. It'll be a good, big school election. We got school board, we got bond issues, I mean.
Derek?
I don't know, I'm on the fence.
All right, I'll come back to you. Bo, you're in, David.
I mean, I'm for the building and I would love to have it for our kids. I just don't know how the community is gonna respond to, you know, and I have had the hardest time telling them it's not a tax increase for this bond. Yeah, but you're extending it way out. Well, yes, we are, but, you know, every year that we wait on this building, it's gonna cost more. The equipment's gonna cost more. I mean, HVAC's not gonna get any cheaper. So.
I mean, I think it looked great last time when we did it, is that it did have all board support. So like, I'm not saying you have to support it or not, but that I thought was a winning factor for us, you know? But because the football field before and the track, what was it, 4-3? So I felt like that kind of started off wrong anyways.
Your turn. What's your thoughts, opinions?
Well, I'm obviously in favor of having the building. If we vote on it, I'm gonna vote yes. I have mixed feelings about it because of putting two things on the ballot that are two completely different things, and one is an increase and one is not an increase. It is confusing. It will be hard to, I'm gonna say advertise, although that's not the right word, you know, to explain it. You've got two completely different things going at once. But I also think it's, now, if it doesn't pass this time, I don't think it's ever gonna pass. But I probably said that before.
Kelly?
I concur the same thing. We gotta go for teachers too. And I don't want this, I want the building, I want the space, but I don't wanna pull away from running this district out of money in 10 years.
I mean,
Meaning, if we didn't pass something to help cover teacher salaries, we just keep draining the bank.
I mean, obviously, if the two are to pass, I prefer the teacher one. Because,
And I don't know if the naysayers.
and I agree with Ashley too, it's gonna be hard to explain. I mean, I don't know either.
Yeah, you're in a tough situation because you have a presidential election on one, and then you have this one and this next one too, and stuff.
And I'm not shooting a Cardinal Foundation or anything, but does anybody think we kind of put the cart before the horse when we said what we had before? Like,
How much money we had?
we said we had 4.3, and I'm not cutting down Mammoth. I think they did a great job. I love the look of that building, but it was kind of, I mean, I wonder if the public just didn't see, well, they said they had 4.3 and Mammoth goes, here's what you can get. Would we be better off maybe pumping our brakes a little bit and putting out like an RFQ for what were these sizes?
100 by 140.
100 by 140. And
Is that right,
saying,
Coach? That's 134 somewhere in there.
say like 100 by 150, you know, something like that, and say, we want a building 100 by 150, set up with a basketball gym and turf and an area for weight room. Use our same style, but get more, you know, as Craig knows, you start throwing companies in on bid and they're gonna sharpen their pencils.
Well,
Maybe we can get that number down before it's time to put it on the ballot. And
I mean, we're gonna be required by law to take the lowest bid.
I understand,
Once
but
that's passed.
it just doesn't seem, it seems kind of like we just said, okay, we're gonna do it with Mammoth. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
we said what we had and that's what they matched, and we didn't throw it out there for like anybody else to have a chance on.
I think there was a lot of confusion in the community on, well, y'all didn't even bid, y'all are gonna use Mammoth. Well, no.
I'm just
we got bid.
I know what you're saying,
It's just kind of like the levy. In anything we want to pass, it's gonna have to be cut and dry, you know, for everyone to support. And I'm kind of wondering if we do decide to push this or put it on the next ballot, we have our ducks better in a row. You know, say, if this was the RFQ we put out for 100 by 150 or 60, it was bid at this, you know, we don't have to accept anything just by putting an RFQ out, correct?
No, but you will be paying an architect, so you'll be.
So we're gonna put out money that way. Okay.
Six
And
figures to do that.
You're already short on
Yeah.
time, probably.
Which I think was the whole purpose of
Why it
Mammoth
was that
being
way.
done by Cardinal Foundation.
I'm just,
Yeah, no, I know.
I don't know, I'm
They
just
paid,
thinking.
they paid Mammoth 15 grand just to get those cost estimates and get those concepts.
Gotcha. I don't know, I'm just,
But I like everything. You know, I wish we could do that too, Derek.
Yeah, me
Because
too.
I wish we could have it all lined up, because invariably what we get from the community is, well, what were the bids? Well, what were the bids? This is a cost estimate. We still have to bid it. We don't have the money to go out there.
Yeah, and that's what the
Play
people
pretend.
don't understand, and it makes it harder, yeah.
I actually thought, you know, for what we got and the amount of money that we spent, that's a pretty efficient way of getting an idea of what the project would be.
I thought the pictures were great.
I mean, rather than,
And the layout.
I mean, we had a back and forth with one person. I was trying to explain that, you know, in order for us to actually know what it costs and nail that down, we would have to have architectural designs.
yeah.
Won't we
We
still
saw-
have to put that out for bid though?
What's that?
The structure.
I think, yeah.
It all gets out for bid, yeah.
But you're talking about a significantly more of an investment out of pocket to do that, to try to get your ducks in a row. And I think this was an efficient way to understand what we could do with the money, for relatively low cost that we didn't even incur, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, I mean, I was very grateful for Carter Foundation. I mean, that kept us, our money in our pocket, and they took a big hit.
I'm gonna make a motion that we put the building on the ballot for $4 million, in the April 25 election.
So we got a motion by Bo. David,
Hold on, should we have more discussion? Or not?
what do you?
The only thing, should we make it 4.3? I know we have Fisher money, but if there's an overage, what do we do? Who's going to cover the cost of the overage?
I think 4 is max on our bond. isn't
Okay.
it?
Close.
Okay,
I mean, it would be,
It's within a few $100,000, yeah. You're within $300,000 of your max.
At that point, it would be a little bit more of a max, I guess, but probably not significantly more.
What do you mean? Like, we're 8.9 million is our max capacity, so
Right, but we
we're
will
about
have,
4.6 we'll be making payments, but.
right,
So it's like
that's-
8.6.
so we're 6 months in, further along, essentially.
Yeah.
So we got a motion by Bo.
The motion is just for us to vote on it. So, I mean, my motion is that everyone vote on this. So a second would get us to the vote.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Ashley. David,
yes.
Ashley,
Yes.
Kelly,
yep.
Amanda,
Yes.
Derek,
Yes.
myself, yes, 7-0. Bo,
Yes.
7-0. That concludes, the open session's over.
Time to eat.
All right, I'll make a motion to move us to
Thank you two
executive
for coming.
session pursuant to 610.021 to discuss 3 and 13, to include probably Mr. Carvajal,
Yes.
Terry, is that it?
That's it.
Perfect.
Second.
But you can get something to eat before you go.
So we got a motion by Bo,
Second by me.
seconded by David. Bo?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Ashley?
Yes.
Kelly? Amanda?
Yes.
Derek? Myself, yes, 7-0, Amy.